That should be nice for you. All right. So we're getting into interpersonal communication part three. As a reminder, interpersonal communication is communicating with oneself. If you understand yourself, then you're going to be able to understand others. We've talked about self-talk and how your inner voice is the most powerful force in your brain because it frames everything. We talked about how you perceive yourself. And then yesterday in the notes, you guys looked at selective perception, deciding what you pay attention to. And also a lot of really, really good responses in the warm-ups, talking about things that you wish that you could pay attention to. And if you take a moment to look back, I did respond to most of you, or at least those that responded yesterday. I know that a lot of you were like, well, I know like there's a lot of like racial injustice, or I know that there's a lot of like, climate change stuff. And I just wish that I knew more about it. And I think that just making that step is already a really, really good thing. Like wanting to understand more about the world, that's a good thing. You should never want to stop trying to understand the world because it's important to learn things. All right, so we talked about selective perception yesterday. You should have seen in the notes that you listen or you pay attention to things based off intensity, repetition, relevance, and uniqueness. So if something has a very intense, if it's a very intense message, if it's repetitive, if it's unique to you, and it's also related to something that you care about, you're more likely to pay attention to it. And I know that in the notes video yesterday, I talked about sound, but it doesn't necessarily just have to be sound. Like having a very big billboard can deliver a very intense message. But besides the point, we're getting today into yourself. Your self-concept, also known as self-perception. So the clip from Community that I showed on Monday, that talked about that had Abed saying, if you know who you are and what you really like about yourself, changing for other people isn't such a big deal. So that is going to kind of be more explained in today's slide. So self-concept is a really interesting thing because as we look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 different parts of our self-concept, 10 different parts that we accept about ourselves. So when we look at ourselves, we're not always looking at ourselves the exact same way in the exact same situation. So the self-concept really helps with that. The first is we have our real self. This is who you are, even if you're not sure who that is yet. It's not usually developed until you're an adult, and of course, even then, you may not be convinced that you are who you are yet. But real self is who you are, even if you don't know who that is yet. As I've gotten older, I think I've learned more about myself, and I think my real self has kind of changed a little bit. And so that's our first one. The second one is the perceived self. The perceived self, this is going to be who you think you are at a stage in your life. So right now, I'm 30 years old. Okay, so I'm really concerned with financial health, and I'm also really concerned with emotional health, and I'm also concerned with physical health. So I've been trying to drink more water. I've been trying to work out every day. I've been trying to do things that are going to benefit my health. I'm also budgeting with my wife, so I'm working on that financial health as well. We talk every single day. We try to keep our friendship and marriage alive every single day. So that is me working on my emotional self as well. Then we have the ideal self, and this is who you want to be. And again, this can be like I want like those of you like I want to be an athlete, like a professional athlete. That's your ideal self, right? So when you think of yourself like I did it, I finished, I beat the game of life. That's the ideal self, who you aspire to be, who you want to be when you're finished with everything. Next is the public self. This one doesn't need a lot of explanation, but it's who you are in public. So when you're in public, are you funny? Are you shy? Are you quiet? Are you mean? Are you rude? Are you kind of just to yourself? It kind of really just depends on who you are in public. Then, of course, we have the private self. This is who you are in private when no one is watching. When no one is watching. I'm going to talk about this tomorrow in the warm-up, I think. But I'm super introspective and very like introverted when I'm by myself. I know that doesn't really make a lot of sense with me being like bubbly and all over the place all the time. But yeah, when I'm by myself, I'm super quiet and I don't really like talk to anybody. I kind of just stay in my own lane and really focus on myself, if that makes sense. Let me get rid of that arrow. Professional self, this is who you are in a professional setting. So when you're working at Whataburger, when you're working at Six Flags, when you're working at SeaWorld, this is the kind of person that you are when you're dealing with customers. Right now, you guys are seeing my professional self. But what's really nice about teaching is that I get to kind of use my public self and even some of my real self, all contributing to my professional self as well, because I really don't hide that much from my students. Next, we have the social self. That's who you are in social situations. Um, when you're talking with your friends, are you the one that's making jokes? Are you the one that is listening? Are you the one that is writing down everything? Are you the one that like is live streaming the whole thing? I know that people do that now. I don't know. I'm kind of out of touch when it comes to social media. But intellectual self, that's who you are when you're learning new information. So when you are at school, when you are researching something, when you're doing like when you're at the library, that's your intellectual self. When you are trying to learn information, that is your intellectual self. Then we have your physical self. So your physical self is going to be being aware of your physical body, who you are while you are acting, when you're working out, and being aware of like, okay, I weigh this much, my muscle is this, I can bench, squat, whatever. I'm working on cardio right now, so weight isn't like strength training isn't like my wheelhouse. And then the last one is the artistic self. That is going to be when you're being creative, when you're writing, when you are making beats, when you are drawing, when you are sketching, when you're painting, when you're singing, when you're practicing your instrument. Any of those things is you expressing your artistic self. When you're making memes, memes are art because anything that moves you is art, as spoken by one Shia LaBeouf. Because I really like what he said in that interview. I think it was a Hot Ones interview. All right, and then the last thing, we're going to talk more about this tomorrow because it's going to be our assignment, and I think we're actually going to do it in real time on in class. But this is the Johari window. So this is our self perception, but there are four different sections of it. So in the Johari window, we have four different things that we focus on: things that are known to us and others. That's things that are out in the open, right? Things that are not known to ourselves but are known to others, our blind spots, if you will. Then we have things that are not known to others but known to ourselves, our hidden spot. And then we have things that we don't know that no one else knows either. And it's kind of hard to really know that one because, I mean, if you know it, then that either makes it hidden or open. But we're going to talk more about this in class tomorrow because we're going to have like our entire assignment focusing on it. So I want to make sure that we can cover that then. But in the meantime, this is what the Johari window looks like. It basically says that everything about our life can be broken down into four sections: things that we know about ourselves that others know, things that we know about ourselves that others don't, things that we don't know about ourselves but others do, and then things that we don't know, and no one else knows it. So that's how that works, and that's going to be, I believe, the end of the notes. As a reminder, make sure to put a topic in the Topic Tuesday. I saw quite a few of you have already put some.